So a lot of people have come forward with their stories about leaving, I guess, the Democratic Party, or I think in some cases the broader left. I would say a lot of these people do belong. They belong on the left-wing side of the aisle, but simply the Democratic Party doesn't fulfill any of their actual policy policy positions or beliefs. I would say that in my case, this started in the year 2000. I was probably, and to, to be fair, I guess it started before I could vote. Now, Al Gore was running for president, and of course Bush was running against him. I was not. I mean, I was only 14 years old, so I couldn't vote anyway. I probably would have still not voted for Bush, but Gore's behavior during the campaign was as if, well, I've gone through these 8 years. I've suffered under Bill Clinton, who couldn't keep his pants on. And basically, I deserve to be president, and everybody else should just fall in line and just let it go. Keep, keep the party going under me. I'm Al Gore. Doesn't matter that I don't have as much of a personality as Bill Clinton, but who are you going to vote for? This redneck from Texas? Well, in the event, the guy was a dead fish, and in fact, during the campaign, he behaved exactly like what I'm talking about. He behaved very arrogantly, as if the voters were too dumb to know the difference between a real policy position, a real vision for America, and basically a political establishment. And after the election, after of course he claimed that it was stolen from him, which it's debatable. The amount of butthurt and the amount of and the lack of humility on his part. He went on SNL and everybody was saying, well, we should let him. They made a mock-up of the Oval Office, and he was just lingering there as if he really deserved to be there. And I know that it was supposed to be a self-deprecating joke, but the message from SNL at the time was that this is a legitimate president. Doesn't matter the fact that he ran a lackluster campaign, didn't really stand for anything, and nobody, for the life of me, I still don't know what Al Gore was trying to propose back then. And I probably would have ended up voting for Ralph Nader at the time if I could vote. 2004, I didn't vote at all. Ralph Nader was also running, but I didn't really see a point in voting because I knew Bush would win. And I consider myself a person of the left. I believed in environmentalism. In fact, I believed in a lot of I still do believe in a lot of the conservation policies that I grew up with. We grew up in an era, the 90s. People were talking about recycling, reusing, all of that stuff was reduce, reuse, and recycle. That was, every year at school we talk about it. Captain Planet was on TV. In reality, the Democrats never really embraced environmentalism as a total vision. They really focused almost entirely on the global warming aspect. And, we see the result today. It's really a muddled vision. Nobody knows what they mean about it. And then instead of proposing, economic ideas that'll help the poorer among us, they keep trying to make poverty a permanent class. They try to create a system where people are permanently poor and they're happy to be permanently poor. And gradually, that's when I started to become, so to speak, a conservative. I don't know if I qualify as a full conservative. I'm for one thing, I'm not a Christian, and I also don't believe in some of the foreign policy beliefs of the Republican Party. I'm against intervention in foreign countries. But in 2008, Ron Paul ran for president. He really started having me think, what is it about this country that we need to do to finally get it free from the burdens of the Cold War? Well, we need to start bringing our troops home. We need to start cutting spending. We need to start cutting defense spending. Ron Paul was the person who started really getting me towards a real economic vision of what conservatism really means, as opposed to some other writers I had been reading at the time, such as Larry Elder and John Stossel, that they alluded to the economic theory, but they weren't really going and mapping it out. So essentially, I have one person in the chat who already mentioned it. Ron Paul was mistreated in the 2012 primary. That doesn't really have to do with walking away from the Democratic Party, but you can see basically that the Democratic Party has ceased to be democratic. In 2004, the election I didn't vote in, Howard Dean was talking about how he's the leader of the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party. And that was just at the time. Nowadays we have actual documented proof that the Democratic Party does not want people at the bottom telling the people at the top what they want. They want people to basically swallow any policy that is most convenient, that will put their stock price, get it up. They're a party that's just as married to Wall Street as the old Republican Party is, and that's why a lot of people have decided to walk away. And it's not because they want to become full-on conservatives. In many ways, it's because they want to just have a freedom to choose somebody who most closely adheres to their vision. And I think that, to talk about more broadly what this means for the Democratic Party, what this means for the country, it could mean in the long term just a complete collapse of the party as a whole in some parts of the country. I live in a state, Ohio, that in 2010 the Democratic Party basically fell completely apart and it's never recovered because they don't replace people who have failed. They keep them going. We've had a person, Lee Fisher, who's run for office here several times. I don't think he's ever won. He's run for governor a couple times. He's run for senator. I think now he's like on the board of trustees of a university here. So you basically fail upward in the Democratic Party. That's how Al Gore got it. I mean, he failed. He lost the primary in 1992. They gave him the vice presidency. What did he do with the vice presidency? Nobody fucking knows. So then he runs for president. Doesn't basically, he basically strikes out on it, and then they make him into a symbol of the environmental movement, which he doesn't deserve. And I think that's really the problem with the Democratic Party. You don't, they reward failure with more and more influence and money and capability. Donna Brazile has never worked on a successful campaign in her life. She worked on the Dukakis '88 campaign. I think she was very superficially involved in the Clinton campaigns in the '90s. Then in 2000, she was the chair of the Gore campaign for president, and they lost. And then they just keep rewarding her. Why? Why do they keep rewarding her? Because of what? I mean, because she's a veteran, because she knows how to do what exactly? That's the mentality of the Democratic Party. Just keep rewarding failure, because it's not whether the policy actually succeeds. It's not whether it's something that actually helps people have a better life. It's about influence, and it's about votes, and it's about being able to basically shake your ass and make people think that you're really something to believe in, when in reality there's no substance behind it. That's why I decided to walk away in 2000, and I don't feel like I'm wrong. And yeah, it is about power. It's about, I see a cue from the audience, but it's about people who don't have the courage to realize that what we said at the time was basically meant nothing. In 2000 there was no vision. In 2012 there was no vision under Obama. In 2016 there was no vision under Hillary Clinton. And that's the way the Democratic Party seems to want it to be. So that's about it. That's my walk away story.